You are listening to the Next Play podcast, the playbook for high-performing leaders who want to exceed their full potential. From walking on the Ole Miss football team at 5'7", 150 pounds and earning a full D1 scholarship, to coaching thousands around the world and working with massive organizations like IBM. I've learned countless lessons that I'll be sharing right here with you. Join me as I interview some of the most successful people so you too can learn how to focus on always moving forward by deciding, planning, and executing on the next play relentlessly. This is Richie Contartesi with the Next Play podcast, and today we have a very special guest. His name is John Sutton. He has bought and sold businesses. He started out as just a tech and over the years worked his way up all the way to marketplace vice president at Novatech. Super successful man. He's done a lot of really, really cool things. And if you're in any type of leadership role, this is a podcast you're absolutely going to want to listen to. So John, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, absolutely. So John, let's just jump right into it, because I know a lot of leaders on the show are going to want to hear some cool ways that you've built your team, all around hiring and retaining and developing your talent. So let's just start with how you got into business.
Curiosity more than anything else, right? I started really early in my life, just, wanting to understand, how things work. And that was kind of the technical side of me coming out. And one of the things that I really wanted to understand was business, how things, ebbed and flowed, in that regard. And that led to, that curiosity driving me to ask questions, partner with people, and just, really learn a lot along the way. So the short answer is curiosity, though.
Nice. Okay, cool. And so what you started out as a tech, how did you get into that?
So my education is actually technical, and the field that I'm in now, a lifelong friend of mine. We grew up together. We went to college together, and he actually got into the technical field before I did. But he called me one day. He says, "Hey, man, I remember, in school you were very good at what we did on the technical side of the house, and I think there may be an opportunity that you want to explore." Now, when I say technical, I mean more, electronics, networking technology, things of that type. I was actually managing auto parts stores of all things at the time. And he says, "Hey, you may want to transition here, and this may be an opportunity for you." So he called me, and I started out as a technician in the copier space, just fixing and repairing copier machines,
like desktop support.
Yeah, mm-hmm. And that progressed, and I really enjoyed it. I got good at it over time because I wanted to understand again how things worked. That led to getting into management, which part of that was my customers. I would grab them and not only explain what caused an issue when I repaired anything, I would walk them through how to prevent that. Right. So there was a process of discovering what the need is, crafting the solution, and then explaining to the customer what the best practice was. And I had a number of customers that were like, "Hey, you need to get into sales." And that eventually, led to an opportunity, and I decided, hey, I'll go ahead and take the plunge, and that was my transition to sales.
Got it. Okay, cool. And so, how long were you in sales for before you started to get into management?
That's a good question, because I had a couple stints in sales back and forth that were driven by really the need at the time, for lack of a better term. But I'd say before I got into management, probably 5 years.
Got it. Okay, cool. And why did you make that switch?
Twofold. The first thing was money. There's a difference in the amount of total earnings that sales professionals make from most other positions in the organization. And I said, hey, I think I can do this. I want to continue to grow my ability to provide for my family and my loved ones. So that was the first motivator. The second thing was, I viewed it as a challenge. Hey, can I really do this? And, I believe I can. So there's only one way to find out. So I decided to take the leap.
Got it. And so, but why move into like sales management?
So sales management, it's interesting because it was one of those things that I was good as an individual producer, but then in order to further the growth of my teams, I had to teach others how to do what I was doing at the time. And so really it, came out of coaching, I guess, more than anything else, because, I want you to be successful, Richie. So I got to teach you how to do it. And, along the way, I'm going to teach you the best practices that I've learned, but I'm also going to learn from you, because you're going to achieve the goal, but you may pick up something that I didn't see. You may do things in a way that's slightly different from mine. So it's that knowledge share that would make us better. And, that just continued to the point where now I've got a team of people and, the leadership of the company that I'm working for at the time, they were like, hey, you're doing this right. Let's just continue to give you support and development and resources. So that was how I got into, sales management.
So what's your process today around leadership? Do you have like a specific philosophy that you use? And just, do you manage a sales team right now, or do you manage a team of sales leaders at this point?
So right now I manage managers. And, for a long time I led sales teams. And at various points in my career, I've had teams of, 1, 2, 3, people, to at one point I had over 100 people under my purview. So I've kind of seen and run the gamut, for lack of a better term, from, small operations to things that were, a bit larger. But, from a process standpoint, it's really, really simple, right? And I was taught long ago, you have to, whether it's sales or anything else, you got to have a plan, right? You got to have a process around that. So, approach, needs determination, present, close, handle objections. And, most organizations have something very similar to that. But I mean, those are the key things. Your approach piece is the prospect. You've got to find where your customers are. And, that changes over time, but you've got to find out, where the people that are in a position to listen to your story and, buy the products and services that you offer, you got to find out where they hang out. Whether that's, you're on the street knocking on doors, whether that's, social media and online, whether that's email, phone, or a combination thereof. But you have to find out where the people are. Then once you, approach the people, you have to properly determine their needs. And that's quite frankly where a lot of sales professionals kind of, miss the opportunity, for lack of a better term, because, there are times when, we want to sell what there's a promotion on this month, when really what we need to be doing is listening truly to what the customer's needs are and crafting a solution that addresses that. So that's, in my mind, the make or break moment. Mm-hmm. So needs determination. Once we properly determine the needs, then we can present what is a viable, offering to solve the problem. So that's where the solution comes into play. And that's going to be more of an educated offering, simply because we have done a proper needs determination. Also, that's where you can, begin to validate with the prospect or the client that your findings are correct. So this is where you know that you either hit the mark or you've missed the mark, right? So now what you do is you're going to go on to the close. So if you've done everything right, particularly in the approach and the needs determination, the close is usually assumed. The customer knows that you're going to ask them for the business. They are prepared to make a decision on that if you've done all of these other things correctly up front. If you haven't, then the close is going to be a surprise. The customer won't know or understand or accept that, you're ready to ask for the business. And then, that last piece is handling the objection. And the reason that's on the end is because, buyers get remorse sometimes. They rethink things, and you have to sometimes anticipate what that is to ensure that they understand what you understand as a possible solution. That makes sense?
Absolutely. So let's just talk Novatech for a second. So sure. How did, and I like the process. I think it's simple, but also sounds very effective. Mm-hmm. So you went all the way from national solutions sales manager to marketplace vice president. So there's a lot of, director of sales, vice president of sales, like you went through the gamut there. How did you first, let's just start with, how did you first build your team? I know you have your sales process. How did you actually build the team to start?
Sure. So, when I joined the company, I joined, as you mentioned, the National Solutions Director. And so that focuses heavily on software and professional service and the process around that. And that was a vein of the business that, the company really needed to build and grow and, ultimately mature.
Yeah.
So, as far as, building that team out, what I looked for then and what I, also look for today is, once you identify your need from a team standpoint, and really, I know you've got a deep background in sports, so that's kind of, the analogy that I'm going to use. If I need a wide receiver, then I'm going to, target a guy that really, number one, has that team mindset, wants to be a part of something bigger than themselves, but also has the skill set to perform the task. So if you're a receiver, it helps if you're tall, it helps if you're fast, it really helps if you can catch a ball. Yeah, so the basic requirements for the position, I want to make sure that the individual can achieve that. The other thing is, well, if they have the ability to do the work, they have the team dynamic as part of their overall mindset, then are they willing to be coached? That is really the third thing. Because if you have all the skill in the world, right? If you're an all-pro athlete, I'm just, again, using that example, and you like being in the team environment and furthering the benefit of the team, but quite honestly, if you're hard to get along with, it makes it really difficult for the team to progress as a whole. And so I'm a huge fan of, you've heard the term, getting the right people on the bus, right? And then deciding where the bus is going to go. That's really how I think about building a team. Overall, I want to make sure that I've got the right person with the right skill set aligned with the right, in this case, task or duty. And by virtue of that, I'm going to drastically increase not only their chances of success, but success of the team as a whole.
Yeah, I like that. So there's two things I want to dive into first, and that's one is the skill set. Is there a specific skill set that you look for, or is it, personality? Is it, have you had a certain amount of experience? Like what specifically when it comes to the skill set are you looking for? Because some people don't care if you have any experience. They're just looking for someone who's coachable, driven, that, like, do you have any specific skills that you're looking for?
No, that's actually a very good question. So in the first part of my answer, you nailed. It's coachable, right? Are you willing to be coached? Are you willing to, take the instruction given to you and then execute the task in the manner that is instructed to you? And that sounds very, very simple, but the problem that you have is sometimes along the way, people want to call an audible. They want to modify the play when ultimately, as a coach, you need to understand if the play even works. So I need you to run the play in the way that we've given it to you so that we can properly assess where we are. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for your feedback. Hey, when you were running that play, did you get hit when you hit the hole? And should we run it at a faster pace? Should we slow it down? Is it the wrong play altogether? So again, is the individual coachable? Second thing that I look for is, does their experience align with the needs of the position? So if I'm asking you to, go out and sell software, we talked about that earlier. Do you have a history of selling software? Now, that may not be a deal breaker because if you're coachable and I see that you've got, the aptitude and the ability to learn, I might be able to coach you into that. So, but that coachable piece is really, really important to me. Yeah. And, that ability to follow the instruction, because ultimately, if you don't have the skill set, we can get you there if you're willing to be led.
So how do you do that in an interview? Like, how do you determine if someone's coachable? Like, this is something that I know a lot of people have tried to do and have failed. Do you have a specific set of questions or something that you look for specifically when it comes to determining that?
Yeah. So I like to do scenario-based questions, right? And what I mean by that is, if I ask you, "Hey, Richie, are you good at X, Y, Z?" You're going to say, "Oh yeah, John, I'm great at it. I mean, I
Right.
do it better than anybody else." Right. So that doesn't really help me gauge whether or not you have the ability to fulfill the task at hand as it relates to this position. What I do is I'll take you through a scenario. I'm going to go, "Hey, Richie." So if I'm thinking about prospecting, so let's say John Doe is the president of John Doe Inc. They're a huge target account of ours, and we've been trying to land this account for 5 years. Nobody's been able to get into it. So what I want you to do, okay, Richie, is go to the top of the John Doe Inc. building on the 100th floor, and you're going to find a gatekeeper there, and that gatekeeper has thrown everybody out of the building that we've ever sent there. What would be your thought? What would be your process to get past that gatekeeper? And that's really all I'm going to give you, because what I'm looking for is organic thought. What would be your organic motion without me giving you much instruction beyond that? Because your answers will tell me who you really are and what you would do in that circumstance. And depending on how you answer, I'm going to pivot a little bit, because most people say, "Oh, well, I may try to make friends with the gatekeeper and get that person to like me." Okay, well, hey, that's great. Well, let's say that gatekeeper says, "Well, hey, Richie, I really like you. You're still not going to get an appointment, right? But I still like you." And so I may take you through a few more questions, but ultimately, we're going to end at the elevator. The gatekeeper kicks you out, and all of a sudden, your target, as you're going back down, enters the same elevator. So now the person that you're trying to schedule an appointment with is standing next to you, and you got 30 seconds. What do you say to that person to land an appointment? Because at that point, I'm listening for whether or not people understand what they're closing for at the moment. If you're in sales, you're only closing for one thing, and that is the next appointment. Because by picking that, you're kicking off a sales cycle. So I'm going to take you through scenario-based questions where there's no right or wrong answer. What I'm really looking for is organic thought and, really the organic emotion of the individual at the time.
Got it. And then basically based on what they say, you'll kind of even provide some coaching and then see if they go back and use that coaching.
That is correct. Because, if I lob one over the fence to you and, you miss it, that's fine. I may throw another one over just to see, because again, it's interview. You may be nervous. You may be thinking,
right. Those are hard questions too. It's like,
yeah, because
especially if you don't know the product and
yeah, but you can't prepare for them. For instance, prospecting. I may say, "Hey, Richie, I'm going to put you in a territory, okay, and I'm going to give you a book of current accounts, and certainly we need to visit those customers and make sure that we've got active sales cycles with all of them. But your day one, what would be your process for beginning to prospect in this open territory? How would you go about finding business? Where would you go? Because you may come up with something that we haven't thought about, and we may go, "Hey, that's pretty awesome. We may need to implement that." Yeah. Or I may find out that you really don't have a process, and I know what I need to begin coaching you on.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So are you more of a fan of building like a pure outbound team or more of an inbound team, or both? Like, do you have preference? Like if you're sitting there and you're like, "All right, I'm going to build out this team," or what's typically your approach to that?
Focus heavily on front end prospecting, right? Because that is
outbound. So you're looking,
yeah, absolutely. Now, do we have an inbound motion? Absolutely. But, the reality of it is net new is how you grow your business. Mm-hmm. And, that is something that we focus heavily on. Certainly we work hard to maintain our current business and to upsell and cross-sell the customers that we do have.
Right.
But you're not growing if you're not acquiring new customers. So we have a heavy outbound strategy.
Got it. And so do you have like more preference on cold calling or emailing, or do you even run that anymore? Is that even in your, like, I'm just curious because a lot of people struggle with that. They're like, "Hey, should I go this route? Should I do this? Should I do that?"
That's a good question. Yeah. So, we do a combination of all. The reality of it is, the dynamic of the world has changed. And, Our industry, was built heavily on, in-person calling, sitting across the table from somebody, shaking their hand, looking at the whites of their eyes, reading their body language and so forth. And in 2020, that all changed, right? So the people that we were accustomed to getting in front of, we literally could not get to them anymore. So we had to pivot our strategy. Our customers were still there, but how we approached them, how we connected with them, how we sold to them had changed. That had to happen, intangibly. So we had to teach our people to sell things that were more intangible in a fashion that was more intangible as well too. And, we saw some people struggle with that. We also saw some people really take to that and become really successful. But to specifically answer your question, yes, we have a combination of all those things, because some of the markets that we're in are major markets, but we also have geographical presence in smaller markets as well too. And it's interesting that the customer preference varies, by market. And some of those smaller markets, they want you to show up. They want to see you. They want to talk to you. They want to get to know you, and they want to trust you. That's their process. So instead of us trying to sell at them, we listen to them. So yes, we do in-person cold calling, we do in-person prospecting, but we also do email and web, and we do campaigns of all type. We leverage technology wherever we can to get to the customers.
Yeah, and it's a good point. Like, so post 2020, what are you seeing today, like in 2022, that's working really well?
So anything related to services and virtual is really beginning to grow for us. It's interesting that when I say the expectations of customers have changed. When as it relates to technology, when I got into this industry, the challenge was I had to educate prospects on what the technology was, and then I had to educate the prospects on why they needed it. Then I had to educate them on why they needed to buy it. And then I need to educate them on why they needed to buy it from me as opposed to my competitors, right? Whereas now, by the time one of our sales professionals, gets an appointment, the customer is really just validating whether or not we know what we're talking about, because they know what the product is. They've done their research. In many cases, they've gotten some sort of idea of what the spend on that product or service, should be. And they're just, validating if we are the right provider for them. And that's way different from, when I got into sales as a whole.
Why is that? Is that because of better marketing? Like, why do you feel like that's the case now?
Well, I think it's a couple things. It's access to information, right?
Yeah.
Again, when you started, information came from the person you were talking to, right, at that moment. Whereas now information is readily available at any time. So, if I want to buy a widget or a cog, I pull out my phone, pull up Google, and I research widget and cogs, and now I got a pretty good cross section of where I can, procure this offering, who the players in the space are, what a proper price to pay for that offering should be, and now I just need a good provider to give it to me, right? And so that's the dynamic that I've really seen pivot over the years.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get to where you are now in the company so fast? It looks like 6 years, 5 years, 6 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just a couple things. Number one, having really good people in the company that promote growth from within. That's just, I can tell you right now, that was one of the biggest things. And just, helping the company grow as a whole. I started in the solutions space, and we were able to build that business to a level of success very, very quickly. And our then CEO at the time said, "Hey, John, that thing that you did for software and solutions, I want you to do that for the entire sales force." So, he moved me into that director of sales role. And so we applied that methodology to the entire sales team. We began to pivot the educational knowledge of our sales professionals to something that was more technology heavy, because we were seeing how the markets were changing, how things were, beginning to ebb and flow. And, we were fortunate enough, so that then CEO retired. Our new CEO, who's our current CEO, came in, and, he was a huge proponent of, hey, we have to leverage technology to continue to provide a high level of product and service to our customers. And so, John, hey, what we want to do is take what you're doing right now and really expand that. And so with that growth came opportunity, and that was kind of my progression from point A to point B.
Got it. And so what's your growth, like what's your play moving forward at this point as a leader? Like what are some of the things that you're working on?
So actually several things. So I mentioned our solutions business. I've been asked to re-enter that fold because even since I was in it last, that landscape has really morphed and changed. I mean, the level and type of offerings that we have available today far exceed what was in the portfolio back then. That's the first thing. The second thing is helping our sales professionals again pivot to selling technology that is more intangible. Again, when I started, you'd buy a copier, printer, a fax machine. There was a little bit of software that went along with it, and now everything's cloud-based. Everything's focused around the network and the services. Everything's smart, right? And so, again, your educational approach, your sales approach, all of that has to really grow along with the changes in products and services. So, helping our people really understand and embrace what that movement looks like to the point of success. That's something that I work on daily.
So I'm just curious, how do you feel like your technical background has made a big difference on your leadership skill or your leadership philosophy? Do you think like that gives you an advantage that others that maybe have just only been in sales and haven't actually been on the technical side? Yeah. What are walk me through that?
No, I think it's been a definite advantage. And the reason why is I tell people I'm kind of a strange
especially
bird.
with solutions, right? Or go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's empowered me and really enabled me to have, conversations on both sides of the table, if you will.
Right.
Meaning that if I need to have a conversation with the IT team about something that is highly technical, highly complex, highly scalable, I can have that conversation, and then I can pivot and translate that to the other side of the table. Hey, here's what this means, as it relates to your business, and here's what you should expect from an outcome and deliverable standpoint. So yes, I would say that has been a huge benefit for me. But but going back to your earlier question, that is also one of the things that I coach to our sales professionals, because I've been able to leverage that, and there's no reason that they shouldn't be able to leverage that too. So internally, we have a curriculum that walks them through. Now, clearly, we're not making them IT directors, right? But
right.
What we are doing is helping them understand the language of technology and how they could use it to their benefit, and how they could drive that benefit to our customers.
Yeah, I like that. It's kind of a different angle. So, during this time, the last like year and a half or 2 years, however long it's been, how have you been able to keep your people? I know, Great Resignation, and salespeople are jumping all over, and some are starting their own businesses. And I think a lot of people are going to realize that having your own business here in the next 6 months, the market's going to be flooded with employees, because they're just going to learn what the reality. But what are you like? How are you able to do that? Or is that something that you're still, kind of getting through?
Well, I believe all companies are still getting through it right now, right? But one of the things that we share with our employees from a retention standpoint is, the reality of it is, we deal with data management, okay? And what I mean by that is, you're either helping people input data, you're helping them secure their data, you're helping them output their data, or you're helping them share their data. The positive is, the one thing that is growing exponentially and that has a a huge growth projection moving forward is data. So you are on the front end of something that is growing, and the need around that continues to grow. So technology is really where you want to be. And our goal is really simple. We want to help you be on the front end of that, because everything is changing. One of the few things in life that never changes is the fact that everything changes.
Yeah.
And, those that, fear or resist change tend to be victimized by it.
Mm.
Those that, embrace and prepare for change tend to benefit from it. And when you, really lay things out that way and explain to people, you are, within a technology company that is growing along with the need. So even the conversations that we're having today and the opportunities that we're discussing today could be dramatically different in a good way tomorrow. So the question is, do you want to be a part of that path and that growth strategy? Otherwise, what happens is, if you're with another company, that vision, that foresight might not be the same. And that has helped us, with our retention strategy. Now, to your point, even still, the Great Resignation is in play, and people are looking at their lives and where they want to be, and they're making decisions. So we're not immune to that. But again, what I've described to you has absolutely helped us with our retention strategy.
Okay, cool, man. Well, listen, I really appreciate you jumping on and sharing a lot of this insight. Is there anything that you would want to share? Most of the listeners here are sales leaders or some sort of executive or CEO type role. Is there anything that I've missed that you would want to share that that you have knowledge of that our audience could get from?
Well, yeah. So, and really just kind of going back to something I said before, number one of the few things in life that never changes is the fact that everything changes. And my people get tired of hearing me say that, but I say that for a reason, because I've seen people in my life just kind of fight that, right? Hey, I like the way things are and things are comfortable.
Yeah.
But even though they're comfortable now, there's danger in comfort, because life can sneak up on you. And the more proactive we are in our thought, in our approach, the more we tend to benefit from it. That's the first thing. The second thing is, people are one of our biggest assets. We got to take care of our people. We got to make sure we listen to them. And we have to make sure that we continually give them an opportunity to grow. And I know a lot of people know that already, but it's something to keep top of mind.
100%. Absolutely, man. Well, listen, John, I really appreciate you jumping on and sharing your story and some of the insights that you shared. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, sir. You have a good day.
All right, you too, man.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Next Play podcast. If you liked the show, make sure to leave us a review. For more resources, visit relentlessuniversity.com or download the free Relentless University app. And if you're interested in having me speak at your next event, visit relentlessrichie.com. Until next time.